I was going to come back to the birthright citizenship point, actually, because I think, the fact that we're even discussing, or that people are discussing, whether the Supreme Court will uphold this or not, when it doesn't seem to me to be something that's open to the Supreme Court to really do, doesn't change the fact that in the meantime, that is presumably going to have real practical effects on the way in which immigration is treated by the people who are responsible for enforcement, when it's combined with the various other announcements that have been made, the various the direction of policy in relation to the US border. And so, it isn't just as simple as Donald Trump says something, it is unconstitutional, it won't stand, don't worry about it in the long term, because there are quite big short-term practical impacts, and he and his team will know that as well. They know that they're not going to get a constitutional amendment, but that's not what it's for.
I mean, it's like the way that he ran his business, right? Where he would say, "That's my land now," for example. No, it's not. Okay, sue me. And yeah, maybe you win that case, right? Maybe in this case that gets to stay your land. Maybe in this case, like he, whatever illegal thing he did didn't work out. But you've now spent money on this lawsuit. You spent time on this lawsuit. And in the meantime, he's done 6 other things. And maybe those people can't challenge him, right? Or maybe that doesn't get so much attention. Are people up in arms about the fact that, are Americans broadly up in arms about the fact that he's now said, oh, there's only 2 genders, so people can't have an X to mark their gender on their passport or their state issued documentation. Are people really are people really going to be up in arms about the fact that the family separation or the family reunification order was reversed? Are people really going to be up in arms about the fact that people had asylum appointments, legal asylum appointments, that were just canceled? I think the answer, I think their bet, and I think they're right, is that people cannot be up in arms about everything.
I was just going to jump on that last point about people can't be up in arms about everything, in terms of the broader strategy of resistance is one word, opposition is another word. The way in which the tone this time seems to be very different from the tone last time, and that, at least to start with, the sort of the mainstream left of center in the US is behaving in a more accommodationist way now than it was last time. And I think it's very early days, and we don't need to immediately assume that we're going to have 4 years of no opposition whatsoever. But at the same time, it's an interesting foot to start with. Or am I overreading it?
No. I think you're exactly right. I think you were exactly right. The tone heading into inauguration was completely different. And this is anecdotal, but my Instagram sort of stories were full of people going to the various inauguration parties, half like semi-ironically, but that means semi-not, right? I think it's a combination of him having won the popular vote. It's a combination of this being the second term, so you can't really say this is an anomaly, this isn't who we are. And I think it's partly people being tired. I think it's also Democrats not really knowing what they're doing after the election, what lesson they're supposed to take from the election. The fact that the Senate Minority Leader came out and said people really want bipartisanship on the same day that Trump issued the executive orders that I just described is pretty, like, are you the opposition or not? Right? What is the point of a second Republican Party in this moment? I mean, or ever, but particularly in this moment. And so, I think somebody asked me yesterday, there was no women's march this time. And I said, look, if quote unquote resistance takes the form of people not donning pink hats and marching, but sending money to abortion funds, like if it's more targeted, if it's more about the people who will be tangibly impacted, okay. But if it's just people saying, well, short of a national abortion ban, maybe it's not so bad, right? Maybe we can't like, maybe we do have to acknowledge then I think we're in very dangerous territory. Yeah.
Because the overarching question here for me is this strategic, or is it apathetic? So
I think Democrats think it's strategic. I think in their minds, and I'm not saying that I know better than lifelong career politicians. Well, like, I'm also not the reason we're in this situation, but whatever. I think they think like the voters are tired of political partisan fighting. We can't fight him on everything. If we seem reasonable on some things, then surely when it's really bad, we'll be able to. But like, they just passed this horrible xenophobic anti-migrant law, and Democrats who are not up for election for another 6 years signed on. So what are voters meant to take from that? And if you're not going to stand up to them on immigration, which was so core to his political project, what are you going to stand up to them on?